Hello everyone, Kamahl here. Welcome to another video. So I was scrolling through my Google News feed and I saw this forum post. This forum post does appear to be posted on the Battle.net Diablo 2 Resurrected forums, and it's addressing, I guess, the controversy that's going on right now on the interwebs regarding the loot system in Diablo 2. It appears as though people are wanting an individual loot system. This post itself is pushing an idea that I don't necessarily agree with. However, what I would like to do is, with that to the side, read through this post and offer some counterpoints as well as a potential solution that could make both sides happy, but also cause a bit of controversy in itself. First, before we even read this, I'd like you to take a moment, and if you're enjoying this video, subscribe to the channel. Like the video, and leave a comment in the section down below of what you think about this whole group loot versus individual loot, free-for-all loot, however people are describing it. I could describe it Diablo 2 loot versus Diablo 3 loot. That's kind of how I see it. So first off, the forum post that is posted by Lons22, Ions22, I don't know exactly, says the debate whether players should get loot or not goes back to the very early days of this game. Sadly, due to programming and software issues, we were not able to get loot for all 8 players. This is something David Brevik and other D2 creators wish were implemented. Instead, free-for-all loot stayed, and let me make this very clear to everyone. The hundreds of thousands of players left because they were sick of free-for-all loot. We didn't get a second expansion due to the player base's mass exit, and we were given the debacle that is D3. So go ahead and let the 40 to 60k people who still play Diablo 2 or some mod of Diablo 2 tell you how amazing free-for-all loot is and how it's a core feature when it was due to limitations of the time. Please, Blizzard, if you have to undo the mistakes of the past, and it's no fault of the creators, it was the limitation of the time, please save this game. What I would like to do is I would like to show you from the horse's mouth David Brevik himself saying that he wishes that the loot system in Diablo 2 was different.
Probably my top 3 things that I think I would do differently with Diablo 2, and they aren't much. Number 1, stamina bar. Number 2, auto gold pickup.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Number 3, individual, loot, instant loot. I think those 3 things alone would make the game, that wouldn't really fundamentally change the game that much, but would be much better than the way it is now, and make a more cooperative kind of experience.
So, as we see there, David Brevik does wish that the loot system was changed. However, he never claims that this was a programming or limitations due to software issues or anything like that at all. He simply said he wishes he could have changed it. So I will agree, the stamina bar, it can be kind of annoying until you're like level 12 and then you never pay attention to your stamina bar again. So, I mean, for the first 45 minutes of the game, it can be kind of annoying, but after that, it's really not. Let's see, what else was it? The auto gold pickup. That is something I never quite understood. The only thing about auto gold pickup, though, is who does the gold automatically go to if there's 2 people standing next to each other when the gold drops? That's like, if you have somebody that doesn't really care about gold, that's just walking around playing the game, they're automatically picking up all the gold when maybe they're like, oh, I have no use for this, it's whatever. And then you may have another player that, is running around wanting to pick up the gold or needing to pick up the gold, another player in your party. Now, you could always just throw the gold on the ground. But the auto gold pickup does actually pose its own set of issues with the game, unless, of course, you implement instanced or individual loot with it, because then everybody would get their own gold. Now, the first point that I wanted to kind of counter this with was the idea of, because David Brevik said it, we should agree with it. Don't let what I'm about to say diminish the amount of respect I have for David Brevik when it comes to Diablo 2 and the Diablo franchise and what he's done for the ARPG genre. David Brevik wanted Diablo 2 to be a turn-based claymation game. Okay? We can also look at the other projects that David Brevik has worked on. These first few, he was just a programmer, so it's not really a big thing. Now, the games that really shot up his popularity would be Diablo and Diablo 2. Both extremely popular games, but he worked on Warcraft 3 as well. But Diablo and Diablo 2, being the lead programmer, senior designer, project and design lead on these two games, it really, really shot up his popularity. And it led to doors being opened up and allowing him to embark on his creative journey as a lead programmer and creative designer. Hellgate London. Hellgate London was fun. It was entertaining. It was a really cool concept. The game died and is still claiming that there's supposed to be some kind of comeback, but unfortunately it's not happening. Dungeons and Dragons Online Everin Unlimited. I have no idea. I've never played it. I don't really play the D&D MMOs. So this game could be good, could be bad. I'm not really sure. But I know that the D&D MMOs or the DDO MMOs don't really have the greatest reputation. Marvel Heroes. Another game that was very fun, very entertaining, that doesn't exist anymore because the game ended up being a massive flop. It was basically Diablo with Marvel Heroes. I ended up playing a crap ton of it because I loved it. I had Deadpool. I had a really cool Deadpool build. But the game, in the end, was a flop. The No-Nomancer, which there's not even a link to, and it lurks below, which there's not a link to. It lurks below is a very extremely pixelated, like, dungeon crawler type game. But this is just to point out that just because David Brevik said it, doesn't mean that it's correct, doesn't mean that it's right, doesn't mean that it's the best option. David Brevik, though, with how amazing and influential he has been in this game genre and this game scene, once again, is not always right on everything. My wife and I had a discussion about this morning, and she brought up UO and the fact that extra level of challenge of having to fight everyone else to be able to be the first one to click on that loot to actually obtain it is a big thing. My wife, she got started in gaming, online gaming, with Ultima Online. In Ultima Online, if you don't have your gear insured, if you die or if you get killed, like if you die to a mob or if somebody comes and player kills you, they can steal your shit. Like, they can legit steal your gear. That's awesome. That's amazing. That's a level of immersion that is fantastic, and that's a level of challenge and fear. And one of the reasons that when I play WoW Classic, I play on a PvP server always, is because you never know where there's a disgusting, slimy alliance waiting around a corner to try to kill you. It just adds an extra level of attentiveness required You can't really zone out while you play, or there's consequences potentially for that. And also immersion. Speaking on immersion, that brings us actually right to the next point. Something that I brought up that Amber had never thought about was how loot drops in a game where it's free-for-all loot versus this individual loot. Now, I want you to imagine you and your party of friends are embarking on this journey, and you're going and you're killing this boss, and you kill the boss, and when the boss dies, he falls over, and next to his body you see his rewards. His rewards are a really awesome helmet, some gold pieces, a decently okay weapon, and a chest piece. And you and your party have to figure out who gets what, or first come, first serve. That's awesome. That makes sense. That seems legitimate. Now that's what free-for-all loot is. That's the way I see free-for-all loot. Now let's look at group loot. Or, sorry, not group loot. Individual loot. Instance loot. You and your party, you go in and you kill this boss, and as you're swinging to cut its head off, you slice through, and you get halfway through, you first start to puncture the skin, and time freezes. And when time freezes, the boss goes, all right, Jared, the Unstoppable, here's a helmet. Marcus, the Unmovable Force, here's a chest piece. Lois, the Storm's Heart, here's 14 gold. Nancy, the Cleric of Evermore, here's a really badass mace. Unpause. Blech. That just, for me, I've never liked instance loot for that right there. It doesn't make sense to me. When something dies, when a monster dies, its loot should be dropped, and that's what the loot is. If you're the first one to pick up that loot, that's yours. If you don't need the loot, and there's somebody else that needs it, trade it to them. Maybe you can get yourself a little rune for it. Maybe you can get yourself a high rune. You picked up that 4-socketed Monarch and superior defense. Somebody else in the party needs it. Sell it to them for a pole. Easy cheesy lemon squeezy. Like, that's what builds the economy. That's what helps the economy flow. One thing that would completely potentially break the economy, which flows right into the next point, is that if everyone has their own loot, you will potentially flood the economy with so much. Like, the way that I look at it is, you and your group of friends, you go and you buy a pack of magic cards. Just one pack. Free-for-all loot. You all put your money together, you get the pack, you open it up, shuffle the cards around on the table, face down. Everybody picks a card, and that's what their loot is. One by one. Everyone gets one. Individual loot. You buy that pack of cards, you open it up, all of a sudden, everybody, that pack of card opens up into 5 more packs of cards, and everybody gets their own pack. Now, the potential of getting a Black Lotus has gone from 1 in 1,000 to, let's say one, let's make the number shorter. 1 out of every 100 packs, right? So you have a 1 in 100 chance of getting a Black Lotus. Well, you've just gotten 5 packs. So now you have a 1 in 20 chance, your party has a 1 in 20 chance of getting a Black Lotus. That's a huge numerical difference that is not a good thing to do with a game like Diablo. Diablo is massively focused, not focused, but it's massively community driven. The whole trade system is based on the community. Now, Project Diablo 2, their trade system, I don't know what the hell is going on there, but listen. A high rune is a high rune is a high rune is a high rune. A high rune is a high rune with the exception of Jaw, Burr, and Low. Jaw, Burr, and Low are each worth, Low is worth about 2 high runes, Jaw and Burr worth 3 high runes simply because of how rare and how useful they are. But when it comes to, like, aside from that, Ohm, Zod, Sir, Chom, not really gold because it's not really useful. All of those are worth the fucking same. Jesus Christ. So yeah, that's gonna flood the game because it just makes it to where it's a lot. It brings down the required amount of kills for an extremely rare piece of gear to drop exponentially based on how many people are in the game. That's not good for the trade community. Because things are so easy to come by, they become, it's the opposite of inflation when you flood it with resources versus money. So I guess massive deflation in the game. But you would have so much loot that everything would become almost worthless because of how flooded the game would be with all of this godly gear. So yeah. And let's go into the fact that there's already an option for this. There's already a fix for this. If you don't like having to fight against other people for getting the drops, put a password on your game and kill things yourself. If you're incapable of killing things yourself, then what you're essentially asking for is the game to give you free gear when somebody else kills things. I'm not necessarily completely opposed to that. I have been known to run in Bale games and Chaos games to item find and try to pick up gear that drops. That's a completely fine thing. But when you're doing this and running it with an individual loot system, what you're incentivizing people to do is stay back, literally not do anything at all and just stay AFK, and then go and pick up the loots afterwards. Whereas now, the way that it is with free-for-all loot, you have to be up in the face of the monsters if you want to hope to grab that item before somebody else that's capable of being in the face of the monsters does. So Chaos games, the way that the game is now, is for people that want to be lazy and get experience. Guilty. It's very, very useful, very good. For people that want to be lazy and get gear, not so much. Not unless you make an item find barbarian. And then anything can be easy. I mean, you still have to fight other people for it, though. Like, imagine that. Imagine you're an item... Oh my gosh. I didn't even think of this until now. How would item finding work? When you item find, would it drop items? So, like, imagine how horrible that would feel. You're an item find barbarian. You item find on a corpse. It gives you nothing, and it gives your party member a fucking jaw rune. Can you imagine how terrible that would feel? Like, it's man, that would be so annoying. Now, a solution that I had, a potential solution, would be an option when you made your character. So essentially another server. A server for basically what we're trying to have done with WoW Classic, where there's a server with some changes. So you could actually run a server, because they're doing standard Diablo where the stash is the same and everything is the same, and nothing's been changed except for the graphics updated. Perfect. Vanilla Diablo 2. Awesome. That's what a lot of people want. That's a great thing to offer to people. What about bonus Diablo 2 Resurrected? So you have vanilla Diablo 2 Resurrected, and then bonus or extra, or Diablo 2 Resurrected plus, double plus good Diablo 2 Resurrected, where it does have group loot. It does have additional rune words. Maybe it has a mapping system for extra in-game content. Maybe it's similar to Project Diablo 2. But I think that one of the things that we need to make sure that happens, and I don't see this happening, but we need to make sure that this doesn't happen, is that the core functionality of Diablo 2 remains what Diablo 2 Resurrected is. There's a huge problem with people not understanding that small little changes, as minute as they might seem, cause a ripple effect in the game. You can look at something as small as adding a looking for group system in World of Warcraft. When you added a looking for group system in World of Warcraft, it made the sense of community in the game plummet into nothingness. And that's not good. Not me. I've always been fairly antisocial when I game. I used to, run my own guild, but my guild understood that I was very rigid on how I played, because when I'm playing a game like that, it's all about progression. It's about progress. It's about doing things properly and getting it done right. It's about playing the game in the most efficient and effective way possible. I feel the same way about Diablo. Now, Diablo, I've done the efficiency and the effectiveness to the point to where now I just like to have fun when I do play. I like to do off-the-wall builds. I'm currently theory crafting a few different builds, because even though I can't really play, I can still theory craft and do build videos with the help of your hero editor. So yeah, I think having an additional server with additional things, maybe individual loot, maybe it's something that you can add for a latter season and see how receptive players are to it. See how people feel about getting individual loot versus group loot. Now, I will say right now, people are going to far and wide receive it phenomenally well, because it makes the game easier. Anything that makes the game easier, people are going to naturally gravitate towards. But what that does is that in the long run makes the game to where, as misconstrued as this statement a lot of the times is, the barrier of entry for a lot of games needs to be set higher. Maybe not the barrier of entry, but the barrier to reach greatness. The barrier, too many games are too accessible nowadays. Games aren't posing enough of a challenge to players anymore. And I think that adding something like a instanced or individual loot system is just another one of those things of giving everyone a participation award. And I'm not for that. I used to have a trophy wall from the sports that I used to play. Not a single one of those trophies that I receive simply for showing up. All of my trophies I received for being good at what I did. And I feel like that's something that we're not seeing enough of. Anyways, that's my long 30-minute conversation about a random person's forum post in the Blizzard forums. Like I said, I saw this and I've been thinking a lot about it, and I just kind of wanted to riff on it and and talk about it for a little bit and give my opinions on it. Anyways, as I said in the top of the video, if you guys like this stuff, like these videos, you like what I'm doing here, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel. Leave a comment in the section down below of how you feel about all these topics, and we'll try to have more videos coming out when we can. I appreciate you guys. I'm out.